Today's spotlight for Black History Month is on Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler. You'll notice there is a lack of pictures in this one, mostly because I wasn't able to find a picture that was accurately Dr. Crumpler. There are a few pictures roaming around the online world of other very extraordinary African American women in the field of medicine, but not a single one of her that is confirmed. And as the very first African American female doctor in the United States, I'm a little disappointed because she definitely deserves to be better known and recognized for her accomplishments. She was born in 1831 in Delaware, but was raised and spent most of her childhood in Pennsylvania. She was raised by one of her aunts, who was the community healer. She wasn't an official doctor, but she was the person that everyone went to when they needed medical help. When she was 21, Rebecca decided that she wanted to move to Massachusetts, where she could go to nursing school. She was accepted into the New England Female Medical College and was the only African American student in the entire school. While she was there, she excelled, and after she graduated, she worked as a nurse, but she wanted to do more. She wanted to learn more. In 1860, while still working as a nurse, she decided to apply to the New England Female Medical College. She was accepted and even won a tuition scholarship. At the time, it was incredibly rare for any African American person, let alone a female African American person, to be able to study medicine. However, this was the beginning of the American Civil War, and medical personnel were in very short supply. And since men were typically off fighting in the war, women were being given some opportunities to be doctors that they might not in another situation. When she graduated in 1864, there were 300 female doctors in the United States. Only one of them was a woman, and it was her. On March 1st, 1864, she was named a doctor or a doctress of medicine. After she got her medical degree, she practiced medicine in Boston at first, primarily caring for poor African American women and children. But then as the Civil War was ending, she decided to help the Freedmen's Bureau and moved to Richmond, Virginia. Many new freed people had not been able to access proper medical care because they were being denied being seen by white doctors. She reported that in 1866, she had access to over 30,000 people who would be willing to be seen by her as a patient. Unfortunately, even with the overabundance of patients, other doctors and the administration found things to heckle her about due to both her race as well as her sex. Once she stopped working with the Freedmen's Bureau, she decided to go back to Boston, and she set up a practice in a place called Beacon Hill, where she spent her time working with African American women and children for the most part. In 1883, she became one of the first female physicians to have a medical book published. It was called A Book of Medical Discourses in 2 parts, and is also believed to not just be one of the first, or the first medical textbook written by a woman, but also one of the very first medical texts written by an African American person. She dedicated the book to nurses and mothers and focused on the medical care of women and children. She wanted to address things that would be preventative care. So instead of treating people who are already ailing, to make sure that they don't ail in the first place. Treat the cause, not just the symptoms. At that time, it was really common that for African Americans who were writing textbooks, that they would have a white male counterpart to do the intro for the book. And she said absolutely not, because she said that she would justify her own work on her own authority because she wrote it by herself. And she did not need their justification or approval. After a full life as a healer, she passed away in 1895 in Massachusetts and is buried next to her husband, Arthur. Dr. Crumpler said, "I early conceived a liking for and sought for every opportunity to relieve the sufferings of others." And she did. Despite the hardships, despite the racism, despite the sexism, everything she did was for the betterment of others who typically would not receive the care that they needed from doctors or from society. And though it's a tragedy that not a single photo of her survives, her legacy of courage, of resilience, of fighting for health equity and social justice live on in the people of many different backgrounds who pursue fields in the medical profession to make sure that healthcare access can truly be equitable for all.